All right, good morning, everyone. It is Sunday morning. I did not make a recap video from week 14, so we're gonna do that right now. Now that all the games are done. Um, in my last video, I made all the picks, so I'm just gonna go over what I got right and wrong in this video. So I got. I was calling it my upset Sunday because I picked a lot of upsets. Some of them hit, some did not, and there were some other upsets that I did not pick. So overall, I did not have a good week. So, jumping back to the Thursday night game, we had Pittsburgh beat New England. Or no, New England beat Pittsburgh. I had Pittsburgh pick. Got that wrong. Jumping into Sunday, I had Atlanta pick to beat Tampa Bay. Didn't happen. Tampa Bay pulled that one out. I had Chicago pick to beat Detroit. Got it right. I had Cincinnati over Indy. Got it right. I picked Jacksonville over Cleveland because Trevor Lawrence was playing and Jacksonville just didn't look good. Cleveland pulled that out. I had New Orleans picked to beat Carolina. They did so. I had Houston picked to beat the Jets. And this game was terrible in the first half. Went to halftime with pretty much no action in the first half. And then in the second half, the Jets pulled off. I mean, I don't know. They just went off in the second half, scored 30 points, I believe, in the second half. Like, it was ridiculous. Um, and I think the final score was like 30-8 or some shit like that. Got that one wrong because I had Houston picked. Next, I had Baltimore picked to beat the Rams. It took them to overtime and a punt return touchdown in overtime, but the Ravens did beat the Rams. I had that one correct. I picked the Raiders to upset the Vikings, and this game was by far the worst game of the year. It was 0-0 until late in the third or late in the fourth quarter when Minnesota kicked a field goal to get a 3-point lead. And I believe the final was either 3-0 or 6-0. Like, just terrible game. Absolutely terrible. And for what Las Vegas to turn around and do what they did this week, which we'll get to in a minute, wild. Um, and it was a home game for the Raiders. So it's like you had two teams that basically put up a combined 3 or 6 points in a whole game inside a dome in perfect playing conditions. Trash. Absolutely trash. But I really needed Minnesota win to lose that, not win it. But oh well. Um, Next, I had San Francisco picked to beat Seattle. They did so. I had Buffalo picked to beat Kansas City. That was an upset. They pulled it off. I had Denver picked to beat the Chargers. They did so. I had Dallas picked to beat Philly. They did so. And then I got both Monday night games wrong. I had Miami picked to beat Tennessee. Miami had a 14-point lead with 3 minutes left in the game and lost. What are you doing, Miami? Like, this is why I've told people in in private conversations, through text message, whatever, that regardless of entering the week, Miami was sitting at the 1 seed in the AFC, and I told everyone Miami is not a contender. They're really not, and everybody was like, "Oh, they have the 1 seed. How can you say that?" Because they have not beat a team with a winning record, for one, and two, everybody they beat were bad teams, or they were playing bad at the time, like Denver. They beat the shit out of Denver, but Denver was playing trash at the beginning of the season, and they got hot. Now they're kind of playing bad again. But um, like they play Buffalo. Buffalo was not doing super great, but Buffalo trashed Miami. Like they played Philly, put up 10 offensive points on Philly. They scored 17 in the game because one was a pick six. The defense scored almost as much as offense. So it's like when they've played good teams, they have not looked good. So it's like I can't say they're a contender because they can't beat good teams. And then here they are on the road on Monday Night Football, in December, late in the season, when it's time to make a playoff push and really solidify yourself if you're wanting to be the 1 seed, and you give up a 14-point lead with 3 minutes left in the game and lose. That's not what contenders do. So, and then I had Green Bay picked to beat New York. Green Bay come out. Jordan Love looked antsy. He looked uncomfortable in the beginning. He looked like he was amped up, like he wasn't settled in. Had a lot of overthrows and just inaccurate throws. Like he's putting too much zip on the ball early on, and he did throw an interception in the first half. I believe he fumbled. So Green Bay turned the ball over several times. Like, played a really bad game, and then late in the game. They were still in it. They went for a field goal midway or so through the fourth, missed it, got a stop, got the ball back, kicked another field goal, and then they obviously at the end they needed a touchdown to take the lead. But it's like, man, if they would have got that missed field goal on the last drive of the game, they were in position to, kick a field goal. And I think they did score a touchdown late in the game to get the lead. But had they have gotten that field goal they missed, they would have been in position to kick a field goal to take the lead then. Or, because when they scored that late touchdown, they went for 2 to try to make it a 3-point game. They missed, so it was only a 1-point game. It's like, man, if they would have had that field goal they missed, they would have been in position to just kick the extra point and be up by 4 or 5 actually, and they could have been forcing New York to go the length of the field for a touchdown with minute and a half left in the game, and been a completely different situation. But one thing that bothered me about the game was it was obvious in the early goings that Love he either wasn't settled in, he wasn't comfortable, like something wasn't clicking with him. And as an offensive play caller, head coach, offensive coach, LaFleur needs to do a better job of getting him in the flow of the game. And I've said this all season long, like, you've got to get him comfortable, you got to get him in a rhythm early, because he's a young quarterback. There's growing pains, and this is part of it. But I think the play calling should have been a little bit different in the beginning. And yes, he did miss some easy throws, but you just got to keep going to those easy throws. And even if you don't necessarily get a bunch of yardage, or you just got to get a first down or 2 and put a drive together and get him calmed down and comfortable. Like, get him feeling himself, build his confidence, and then let him start turning it loose. So I was disappointed in that early on. Play calling got better in the second half to an extent, but what bothered me was on several of Green Bay's drives in the fourth quarter. Like, I get Aaron Jones is out. He's been out. A.J. Dillon is your primary back. He's a power back. And I believe Taylor was the other running back. He provided some help in the running game. But what they continued to do, and it bothered me, is they continued to send Reed on, send him in motion and either do a quick handoff or as he's coming across in motion, or they would have him motion into the backfield as a running back and then take off running when the ball snapped and toss the ball to him. They did this several times throughout the game, and almost every single time it amounted to almost nothing. And they went to it 2 or 3 times in the fourth quarter, and every time it was negative yards. And it's like, why are you continuing to do that? Like, I'm fine with you giving Reed touches because he's explosive, but if you're going to hand him the ball off, line him up as a running back and then motion him out and then motion him back if you're trying to get a read on the defense, and just run a designed run play. And I say that, run a handoff or something like that. Don't just keep doing this, motion into a sweep. And I'm sorry, I'm getting text messages. Don't just keep going to the same play hoping it works when it's not working. You lost yardage several times in crucial situations on that play when I'm sure there were better options in the play calling. So it was frustrating, but Green Bay almost pulled it out. They didn't. So I finished the week 8-7. Really rough week on the picks. It puts my total for the year at 135-72, which is relatively respectable. I don't know the exact math, but that's probably about a 64% win percentage. We're trying to get above 66%. So that rolls us into week 15. We've already had 4 games this week. The Thursday night game, we had the Chargers on the road in Las Vegas. I picked the Raiders because Justin Herbert had season-ending surgery on his finger this week, and the Raiders, after putting up 0 points last week at home against the Vikings on Thursday night, they put up a whopping 63 points. I think the final was 63-21. It was 42-0 at halftime. It was wild for a Thursday night game. Like, we almost had two 70-point games in the same season. It was crazy. Saturday we had two games. Or three games actually. So we had the Vikings on the road in Cincinnati. I had Cincinnati picked, and the Vikings pretty much had this game secured, and then T. Higgins caught a great touchdown pass at the end. He was in the end zone. He leaped for the ball, which carried him out of the end zone at the sideline, landed, and as he's getting tackled out of bounds, like, he turned and reached the ball over the goal line to get a touchdown. It was wild. And number 5 for the Vikings, don't know who that is off the top of my head. He was standing in the end zone just watching his teammate like make the tackle, and it's like, if you would have been engaged in that, you might could have pushed him out of bounds and stopped him from reaching the ball over the goal line, or you could have been there to take the ball out of his hand as he was reaching for the goal line. Could have potentially changed the game and won the game for you. So looked like a little bit of lack of effort on his part, but it's the NFL. It happens. It shouldn't, but it does. Cincinnati ended up kicking a field goal in overtime to win. Jake Browning I believe is now 3-0 for Cincinnati starter. I'll say that. I know he's won his last 3 games. Next, we had Pittsburgh on the road in Indianapolis. I had Indy picked to win this. Pittsburgh was up like 13-0 early, and then final score ended up being 30-13. Indianapolis came back on them. Michael Pittman took a hard hit in that game. Really, really hard hit, but I think he ended up being okay. I don't know if he finished the game or not, but Indy won. I got that right. And I had Denver picked to beat Detroit last night, which was god-awful wrong because Detroit smashed them. Jared Goff ended up throwing like 280 and 5 touchdowns. Pretty wild game. I really needed Detroit to drop that game if Green Bay was to have any chance of winning the division. But Green Bay kind of hurt their own chances by losing last week to the Giants. Had Green Bay won that, and they would be in a really good position. Now I believe if Detroit loses out and Green Bay wins out, they can win the division, but that's the only way. And I don't see Detroit losing out because they play, I believe so they got 3 games left, and they're playing the Vikings, the Cowboys, and the Vikings, and I don't see the Vikings beating Detroit twice. So moving into today, so I'm 3-1 on the week so far. Moving into today's games, we got Tampa Bay on the road and Green Bay. I got Green Bay picked. Green Bay is currently in the 7th seed, still in the playoffs if they win today, and they'd be tied with Minnesota again at 7-7. And with them playing next week, they would have a chance to beat them and jump to the 6th seed, which ultimately that's going to put the 6th seed going on the road to Detroit in the playoffs, a place where Green Bay has already went on the road and won. So if Green Bay is going to get in the playoffs and have any success, it's going to have to be in the 6th seed. So I got Green Bay winning. We got New York Jets going on the road in Miami. This is a rematch from the Thanksgiving strumming, actually Black Friday strumming. I got Miami picked to win that. Houston on the road in Tennessee. CJ Stroud is not playing, so I have Tennessee picked to win. The Giants on the road in New Orleans. I think this is where Tommy DeVito's magic kind of runs out. I think New Orleans will pull this out. We have Atlanta on the road in Carolina. I have Atlanta picked to win this. And at one point in the week, tickets for this game were on sale, or they were selling for like less than $1 on like ticket websites. Like 45 cents, 50 cents. Like, it was crazy. We have Chicago on the road in Cleveland. I'm kind of going out on a limb on Chicago, but I think they're going to win. They've been playing a little bit better on both sides of the ball. I would be happy if Chicago lost, obviously, because they're a division rival of Green Bay, but I feel like they might have a chance to win this, so I'm picking them. We have Kansas City on the road in New England. I got Kansas City picked. I don't think they're going to lose 3 in a row. They've lost 2 in a row for the first time in a long time. But I really expect them to bounce back against a bad New England team. Reports coming out of New England this week that basically after the loss to the Colts in Germany, Bill Belichick and ownership management have basically agreed that they're going to finish the season and mutually part ways afterwards. Obviously, Belichick was asked about this, and he gave the most Belichick response. I'm focused on New England. So, or not New England, I'm focused on Kansas City. But it looks like New England and Bill Belichick will no longer be together next season. Next, we have Arizona hosting San Francisco. Obviously, I got San Francisco picked to win this one. We have the LA Rams hosting the Washington Commanders. I got the Rams picked to win this. We have Buffalo hosting Dallas in the 3:30 window. This was a really tough game to pick. Buffalo is favored by 2.5 on most websites and by Vegas. It's on the road, and it's going to be a bad weather game. Last forecast I saw was projecting 80% chance of rain, 15 to 18 mile an hour winds with gusts up to 30, 32 miles per hour. So not a good game for passing. So it's really going to come down to running games. I know Buffalo's running game is not super good, but Dallas's run defense is also not super good. And if there's a quarterback I trust to throw the ball in bad weather, it's Josh Allen, because he's got the arm to be able to throw into the wind like that. So, honestly, I have Buffalo picked just due to the weather. This is a game I really could see either team winning. I mean, I think Dallas's defense is good enough to bail them out in this game, but it's a home game for Buffalo. They have a lot more to play for than Dallas. Like, their playoff hopes are on the line every single week, whereas Dallas is not. So I'm kind of leaning towards Buffalo on this one myself. Really hard game to pick, though. In the Sunday night game, we got Jacksonville hosting Baltimore. I got Baltimore picked to win. I just don't think Jacksonville is going to be able to hang with them. And the Monday night game, we have Seattle hosting Philadelphia. Kind of the same situation as Kansas City. I don't see Philly dropping 3 in a row. And Philly, even though they're sitting currently in the 2nd seed in their division, they still control whether they win the division or not, whereas Dallas does not control whether they win the division. Dallas has to win out and hope Philly drops another game. Otherwise, Dallas can't win the division. If Philly wins out, they win the division. So they're in control of that. And after losing 2 in a row, having 2 rough losses against really good teams, I am somewhatly concerned about Philly, but not super concerned because, as I said in a previous video, Philly just played San Francisco off of a 10-day break because San Fran played on Thanksgiving, had a week, 10 days before they played Philly. Then they played Dallas, who was on a 10-day break, who played the Thursday after Thanksgiving and then played Philly. So they played 2 teams in a row that were on 10-day breaks. So those teams had a little more time to prepare, had more rest. That's kind of over with now, and I think Philly will want to bounce back. I think they're a good team. I think their coaching staff's going to want to bounce back, so I think Philly will pull this one out. I'm not sure if Geno Smith is playing or not. I know he didn't play last week. If he's out, I definitely have Philly picked, but either way, I'm picking Philly. So we'll see how we do with this. We're rolling up on the very end of the season. After this week, we'll have 3 games left. Playoff hunt's really starting to heat up in both conferences. A lot of MVP talk. I know a lot of people are pushing Dak to be in the MVP conversation. A lot of people are pushing for him to win. Personally, I don't think for me, he's not the winner. He's not the favorite, in my opinion. If you're going by definition of who is most valuable to their team in the league, it's Jalen Hurts for me. I know he does not have the sexy MVP stats, but Philly is 10-3, and they come from behind in like 5 different games this year. And you take Hurts off their team, they lose all 5 of those games. Like, without Hurts, they are not even in a wild card spot. They're outside looking in on the playoffs. So, and like, you take Dak off Dallas. Dallas is won with their defense more than they have their offense. Like, yes, their offense has played great, but you could put their backup in there. You can put Cooper Rush in there, and I don't see Dallas's record going from, I think it goes from 10-3 to like 8-5. I think there may be 2 games they might would have lost that Dak won or that Dak played in. So um, I know Dak's having a good season, and we're like this whole season has been a down year for offenses. So when quarterbacks or offenses do have good games, they get a ton of attention because the offensive production across the league is down. So I think people are fixating on some of Dak's good games because there's been a lack of good games across the league. Um, but with that, again, when you're beating a team, you look at like the Thanksgiving game against Washington. I think they won 45-10. I mean, yeah, your offense scored 45 points, and that's great, but your backup could have scored you 21 points and you could have won that game 21-10. I mean, even if your offense wasn't playing that great, I mean, you score 21 points, your defense probably doesn't give up, more than 17. Like, you still win that game, I feel like. So I feel like their defense is the unit that has helped them out the most. And I don't know if I've said it in a video or not, but Dallas's defense has played bad in 4 games this year. So that's only 4 games that you've asked your quarterback to bail you out, and Dallas is 1-3 in those games. Arizona defense played bad, offense didn't bail them out. San Francisco defense played bad, offense played worse. First game against Philly, defense played bad, offense played really good, but didn't play good enough, still lost. And then Seattle, defense played bad, offensive played really good, and did pull out the win. So when you're looking at it like that, and you look at Philly being down double digits to Buffalo and Kansas City in back-to-back weeks, being down at halftime to Dallas, and coming back and winning those games, like, yes, the defense helped get some stops to allow the offense to come back, but without Hurts, that doesn't happen against any of those teams. So for me, Hurts is by definition the most valuable player. But if you're going strictly off stats, Brock Purdy leads Dak in almost every category: completion percentage, rating, QBR, which completion percentage and QBR are really close. Rating, Purdy has him. Yards per attempt, yards, Dak has him in touchdowns and total touchdowns, and outside of that, that's it. So for me, I would put Hurts 1, Purdy 2, and I could really see either one of those being flip-flopped. And at 3, I could probably put Dak or Tyreek Hill, one of the two, at 3 and 4, because Tyreek Hill is really having a good season. And with him getting hurt in that Monday night game and their offense struggling afterwards, you can see his value to the offense. So that's kind of my take on the MVP topic, but we'll see how it shakes out over the last few weeks of the season. We'll see how some of these teams play down the stretch with, seasons on the line, playoffs on the line, big games. And hope you enjoy your Sunday. Hope you enjoy some football. Hope your team wins, unless you are a Tampa Bay fan. And we will try to make a recap earlier in the week than next Sunday. Probably going to be a lot to talk about in the next few weeks. Chargers did fire their head coach, Brandon Staley, and GM after the Thursday night beatdown they took. So there will be new management and new coaching in LA next year. So that'll be interesting to watch. That's 2 head coach vacancies we have currently. Panthers, and actually 3. Panthers fired their head coach, Raiders fired their head coach, and now the Chargers. So we got 3 head coaching jobs open leading into next year so far. So we'll see how many more come open. But again, enjoy your Sunday, enjoy some football, and I will catch you next time.